Hey, this is Kyle Carver from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Crimer Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Crimer family. Since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you're looking for an incredible meal and an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House down on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Strong Dads. Here with Merle. We're back again doing another episode. Super excited to be back with you guys. Merle, how you doing today?
Oh, I am good. I am rolling today.
Good, man. That's awesome. Yeah, so we're super excited to be back doing another episode. Today is going to be...
wait. This was your idea, right? This was your idea.
This was not my idea, but this is something that is very true and needs to be talked about. So it'll be good. I'm excited to get into it. Today we're going to talk about how to love your wife when she is hard to love.
Well, you used a different word when we were just talking about this. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. This is actually, it is a great show because there's a flip to this, and that is when we speak to our wives, teaching and understanding how our wives are to love our husbands when they're not very lovable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? When they're being a jerk. Not that would be not you. I know
that.
Yes. And so this is kind of the flip of that. It's us learning how to deal with our wives when maybe we're not being treated the way we want to be treated by them. And so the quick fix is just go ahead and cash out and divorce and be done with this relationship. And because this is Strong Dads podcast, we're not much in favor of that.
Right? Absolutely.
We see the lasting effects of that. So we want you to listen in. Some of what you're going to hear today, it might ring a bell with you in terms of, that's kind of how I am, or that's what's going on in my house. And hopefully we can give you some tips or some ideas on how to rethink your approach and ultimately help you, help your wife, and help the marriage.
Right. Yeah. So before we kind of get into a lot, we definitely want to take some time and thank our sponsors. We're really excited about this. Strong Dads, super excited that Crimer's Beer is coming alongside of us and sponsoring us.
Well, I think it's Crimer Beer House. You bet.
Yes, you're right.
I know where your head's at, brother.
Yes, the Crimer Beer House. Yes.
It's a restaurant, not just a beer.
Yes, this is true. Yes. So go check them out. They're down on 128. They've been open since 1982. They got a really cool environment down there and some great food. Go check them out down on 128 down there in Cleves.
Yeah, I shared in another show that Mark Crimer is a woodworker. You got to walk through that place and just see the things that he's carved and built. And
he's got some stuff on the outside too.
Yeah, the outside itself. So he's quite the craftsman. So
Heck yeah.
You got good food, you got good drink, and you got a good setting to sit in. So check out Crimer's. Also, we want to thank Mansfield Insurance. Mansfield Insurance Agency has come alongside of us to help be another sponsor of Strong Dads. Mansfield was established in 1981, and they are located in Bright, Indiana. So they not only serve the Bright, Indiana folks, but they serve the folks out in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So for all your insurance needs, seek out Mansfield Insurance Agency.
Very cool. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys sponsoring us.
Yeah, okay, so... should we talk about, do we want to talk about a time when our wife was not very nice to us? This sounds like we're going to be two boys pouting about how we don't get treated right.
I have a feeling that both of our wives are going to be listening to this, so we should probably hold back a little bit.
We invited Linda to come in on this one, and she said, I don't want to be any part of that. That was funny.
Well, it's funny because when you text me, and we were talking about this and preparing for this episode, when you text me the idea behind this, I kind of laughed, and I told Jenny about this, and she kind of laughed at me too. So this is a big struggle for me. This is something that you know what? I'm gonna let you take the lead on this, and I'll just listen to you the whole time.
Well, so here's where we kind of get off the mark. So a lot of times our behavior is still very selfish. It's very immature, and we wonder how that happens. And I want to back up for a little bit. One of the things that we often talk about on Strong Dads and even in Lynn and I's work at Rock Solid Families is what it means to be mature.
Yeah.
Not just mature in terms of, whether we are age appropriate mature, but mature in our faith. when we are mature in our faith, it really calls a whole different level of action out of us. And it's not what the world seems to agree with or even celebrate. In fact, most of the time, if I'm acting immature, my buddies, so to speak, are chiming right in with me and joining me. Okay, and so if I hang around that long enough, I'll think that that's the norm. That's how we're supposed to be. The problem is it's the destruction that leads from that is what happens to my wife and my family, and ultimately our whole community. So back up for a little bit. A lot of what we're talking about today is sort of a maturity thing, and understanding. And again, this is your wife's maturity as well.
Sure.
So this is not just a man problem. It is us as a culture, how we have really absorbed the whole idea of I should get what I want when I want, and if I don't get that, then I have a right to to be angry or upset or to act immature about it. So so hang in there with us.
Yeah.
So, this is kind of funny. Whenever I deal with people who maybe they've been married for 15, 20 years, they come in and, man, they just can't stand each other anymore. It's like, oh, my gosh, and so I always kind of start with a statement of, okay, so why did you even fall in love with him to begin with? I mean, if he was that much of a jerk, well, I don't know. He wasn't that way when we got
I was going to try and change him.
I bet Jenny would say, you had her totally fooled, didn't you?
Well, that's why I started dating her in high school, so she didn't know any different.
You made her wear real thick glasses so she couldn't see you, and then she just walked around with her head down all the time, not really seeing the real you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we can be blinded by, it can be physical attraction, it can be the personality is fun, they bring out something that we enjoy, and that's all real stuff, and it's good stuff, okay?
Right.
But all of a sudden we get down the road a little bit further in time, and we start to go, this is not quite what I bargained for.
Yeah.
And it starts to bring out our ugly, right?
For sure.
And so we talk about this, the whole idea that the honeymoon's over.
Yeah.
And the honeymoon's over, and what we find is honeymoon, period, and I say honeymoon meaning we still see all of the good. We're still very much infatuated with this person. We love.
Or we hope so.
We hope so. Yeah.
We hope so.
And usually this lasts about 3 months to about 2 years, honestly. And then all of a sudden life starts to happen.
Yeah.
And when life starts to happen, we get into our busy schedules, stresses of life come to be, things start to go to their more normal way. Yeah. And now is when we start to see somebody's true colors shine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, quickly, Jenny found out you're not the prince that you tried to say that you were, right? And she starts to do these things like she nags, she complains. I shouldn't say this to Jen. This should be I'll say it.
Maybe I shouldn't agree with you and keep saying
Exactly. You keep saying yeah.
Everything you're saying, Merle, sounds really good.
Jenny, we apologize right now. I'll flip this over and I'll switch it to my family, right? So Linda starts nagging at me like, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And the more she nags, the more I just couldn't care less about getting it done, mostly because I'm just immature and I'm like hearing this background banging in my head, right? We see physical changes. Even we are attracted early on because of the physical that we saw. But over time, whether we're just gaining a few pounds, picking up a few wrinkles, not having quite the energy that we used to have, that even can become less attractive.
I would say we probably should take a picture of yourself in the mirror and be like, wow, I'm not the good looking stud I used to be too.
Yeah. Well, we certainly don't want to have our wives weigh in on that one. All right. And because life just gets so busy, all of a sudden we start to focus on different things. We no longer feel appreciated. She doesn't feel appreciated by you. Mm-hmm. All the work that she does to keep your family strong and healthy and together. All the work that you do in terms of whether it's to keep the house standing or to pay the bills or whatever it is, we start to neglect seeing that, and we really start focusing on some of the nasty. Okay? And so, let's just go through some of these things of what a typical male, when I say typical, that's a a male that has let himself be swept away by the world.
Yeah.
That's a male that has not tapped into what his true Christian faith.
Yeah.
And even if you're a Christian, it doesn't matter, right? I can still fall into this kind of wavering on how I should behave. Okay.
Yep.
So, one of the things, typical male responses, if she's not nice to me, I'm not going to be nice back to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Do you ever yell back at her, or how do you get back at?
So I'm not a big yeller, but Jenny always calls me a challenger. She always says I challenge everything. So I'm the one that I always have to have the last word in.
Oh yeah.
So that's always my last little jab I throw in there.
Yeah, I like that. A good phrase right there. That last jab. They gotta get that last word. I'm guilty.
And usually those are the ones that sting the worst. You throw that last little bit, and it just golly. And as soon as I say it, I'm like trying to grab those words back and put them in my mouth. Like, why did I say that?
Yeah, especially the more you're aware of it, the more you catch yourself, and you don't even stop yourself. You just like let it zing.
Yeah, and those are the ones, especially like in front of my kids, like in front of the girls. I need to be much more aware of my surroundings and who's around me. Not that I shouldn't, be aware of that when it's just Jenny and I, but even more so. I have two girls, and they're gonna look at me and be like, "Wow, Dad, way to mess that one up."
Yeah, boy, you're really nice. Yeah. Hope I get a husband just like you. Yeah.
So
what a prize.
And sometimes the typical male response would be, I'll treat her the way that she's treating me, and that's again, these are even as a Christian male, these are still things we struggle with. I know I for sure do. Maybe you not so much, Merlin.
Oh no,
I know
you. I'm right in there. I've taught classes on this stuff for 20 plus years, and my humane cardinal self will reveal itself daily. I fall in and I'm like, really? Or did you really just say that to Linda? Did you really do that, you idiot?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, she doesn't respect me. I'm not going to respect her. Kind of like, I'll get her back. This whole tit for tat thing. So,
this one, she talks to me nasty and I'll give it right back to her. Just that idea, like, and I do this a lot. Just the classic one-upper, like, oh, you threw a jab, below the waist. Oh, watch this. I'm go right for that. I'm gonna do the headshot. And it's just that's me. I'm just a classic one-upper. Again, I'm not trying to say what I'm doing is good by any means. But these are
in the moment though. You are right. In the moment, you're like, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong, so I'm gonna I'll show you with pointing out your shortcomings. Yep. This is one that I'm really guilty of. If I'm not in the right mood and Linda points out a shortcoming of mine, which there are very few, right? I mean, yeah.
Yes, sure.
She finds one of the million of my shortcomings and she points it out. Rather than just sort of kind of acknowledging it and taking it as a corrective criticism or a way to kind of help me grow as a man, I right away spin it right back on her with like, well, yeah, but what was the last time you did this? I have to spin out her shortcoming to somehow make me feel like, I don't know, I didn't get beat or something.
Yeah, that was tough. So yeah, the idea that she nags me, so I'll just ignore her. And that whole idea of the honey-do list, that there's so many things that need to be done around the house. And again, kind of going back to that, if she points out my shortcomings, oh, well, you're right, I didn't cut the grass. Well, you didn't vacuum. So now we're even.
Now we're even. Yeah. Oh, that's so mature.
That
just sounds
I'm
great.
Not mature in the slightest.
That whole idea of, and this is, hey, listen up, guys, because this is such a common phrase that I hear out of primarily men, is when she's nagging, all right, when she's just kind of banging the same message and I'm tired of it, the phrase, whatever.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come out of your mouth, it rings in your head.
Yep.
Right, whatever. And it allows me to open the door into ignoring what the underlying message is.
Yeah.
So the phrase whatever, or just flat out ignoring that nag, is definitely a quick go-to that we as men jump into.
Yeah, and this one, another typical response is, well, she withholds sex. I would just withhold love. Just that idea that women are definitely tapped in more to the emotional aspect of love, and men typically are more the physical, i.e. the sex. So if she's going to withhold sex, I'll just emotionally disconnect from loving her.
Yeah, I'll be cold, and we see it all the time in our work. The frequency of sex being used as a leverage tool, both from female to male, male to female. Yeah. Both of us use it. And you said it just right. The idea that if she withholds sex, at least in my definition of frequency or whatever, if she withholds that, I'll just kind of be a cold jerk back to her.
That silent treatment.
Yeah. And so my physical need for that sex is not being met, so I'll just flip it right back and not emotionally tap into her need. So if she's needing a little bit more of a shoulder to lean on or whatever, I'm not going to be there. She can go figure it out on her own. And that's when it becomes a manipulation. Again, another just speaking to our immaturity aspect of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we pretty much just summed up how us typical males respond in all of these great situations.
That's 90% of the arguments in my house there.
Yeah. So let's jump to maybe something a little bit more proactive. The whole idea that, as strong dads, we're called to be something different. We're called to separate ourselves away from what the average guy out on the street is doing. And so to do this, you really have to dig a little bit deeper into how you're designed, not in your eyes, but in the eyes of God. And so our Christian faith is very plain and simple about this. I didn't say easy. I said it's plain and simple to actually see it being pointed out. And so in Ephesians 5, starting at verse 25, guys want to point to the verses ahead of that, before that, because it all talks about how women should submit to the. Okay, you can read that. I certainly want you to read that, and wives need to read that and understand actually what that means. But let's jump into actually what Scripture is calling us men to do. And so in Ephesians 5:25. It talks about, for husbands, this means love your wives just as Christ loved the church. He gave up his life for her. So just stop right there. The church does not always do everything right. The church has spit in the face of Christ time and time again. Christ continues to love and honor his church, okay? To the point where he gave up his life. And I want you to think for just a second. This sounds cliche, like, I would give up my life for my family. The reality of that is we don't act like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll give up my life if she does ... Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And so that's kind of the reality, that Christ gave up his life for us. And then it goes on and he said, in verse 27, he did this to present her to himself as a glorious church without a spot of wrinkle or any other blemish. Instead, she will be holy. And when I say she, that means us as part of the church. Okay?
Right.
Instead, she will be holy without fault. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. For a man who loves his wife actually shows love for himself. No one hates his own body, but feeds and cares for it, just as Christ cares for the church. So if we let that be kind of the premise of how we are to love our wife, even when she's not lovable, in other words, Christ loves us, the church, even when the church is just being nasty, is being just rebellious and rejecting his message. He still hangs in there with us. Okay.
And he if you go back even like Old Testament, what God, like his people, Israelites, like they just screwed up time and time and time again, and God just kept loving on them and kept providing for them. In the same way, when our wives continue to screw up in our eyes and continue to nag on us, just that idea that we should still provide and still love them. And we it's one thing to say that I love my wife, but what do my actions actually say about, do I really? That idea that if an outsider was looking in and I made that statement, like I would give my life for my wife, is it believable to somebody else?
Right.
Because that person might have a different outside perspective that you're not necessarily seeing one-on-one with your wife.
Yeah, that's a good point of just what is being projected out there. what do our kids see?
Yeah.
Our kids see right through our phoniness. So again, our advice is going to start from the whole idea of stripping down the human condition and jumping into the Christian condition of loving unconditionally, just as Christ loves the church unconditionally. And so we have to kind of wrap our head around what that means. And this is where that we talked earlier about our immaturity. This is the maturity that we're talking about. Settling yourself in and saying, all right, wait, what would Christ do in this situation? And how do I need to behave, right? And so a couple of things to begin with is you have to understand when you are getting triggered by your wife. Okay, we're not trying to fix your wife today, guys.
Triggered. That's like a millennial term there, Merle.
Trigger. Hey, man,
you sounded good there.
I am with it. I am so on top of it. It just makes myself sick half the time. Yeah, but there are triggers. We talk about this all the time. There are emotional triggers, and when your wife triggers an emotional response out of you, that's what usually drives you into your immature response. Okay, so you have to understand and recognize what your emotional responses feel like to you. All right, and so some of these things are just like your blood pressure might pick up a little bit. And your face goes red. You can feel it swelling right up. You can feel the heat coming up through your face. I know for me, when Linda truly says something that kind of gets under my skin, I'll feel my heart rate go up.
Well, and that idea that as husband and wives, we should know our spouse very well. I know what gets Jenny going. Like, I know those buttons to push, and just like we're talking about those typical responses, like she's nagging at me and she says something hurtful to me. Well, watch this, and just same way she knows the buttons to push if she wants to get at me, and that vice versa. That idea that your blood pressure does go up, and kind of wearing your emotions on your sleeve. That idea that when she says something or I say something to her, it's very obvious what that just did to them, and that idea that words do matter. A lot of times, we like to, as men, like, oh, come on, they're just words.
Right.
But they really do, especially when we're talking in reference to our wife. Like, those words do hurt. They do have...
Especially when we know the intention of the word that we just released. We know it. Okay? And so, you're right. Typical things are that blood pressure, that heart rate. And here's one that I see all the time. Men pout. They pout. They kind of walk around, their head down, and they just sit there and they stew over it. And I look at it like, really? You're going to sit here and pout like a 5-year-old? But they pout because they own what she just did, and instead of taking a mature route of trying to problem solve it and figure it out, they just sort of own it and let it stew and let their emotions and their brain kind of go down that negative path.
Just that idea, just like you were saying before, you get a bunch of guys in the same room and the topic of your wife comes up, and you sit around and start pouting, and other guys like, oh yeah, man, I can't believe she would say that to you. And it just really feeds and fuels that fire that's like you just begin to just sit there and nag, and you complain all the time about it.
So these are some of the things that you need to recognize when she has pulled the trigger on you. You recognize your response, and it could be pouting, it could be yelling, it could be ignoring, it could be any of these things. For you, recognize what you do. Right, and you will start to catch yourself right in the middle of it, like, oh yeah, here I am, I'm sitting here pouting, or there I am, I'm up in my voice on her again. Okay, so here's what you do with this, guys. When you feel like you've been triggered, okay, you recognize it. That's part of your maturity. You recognize it, and I need you to force yourself into a timeout of sorts. A timeout is something that we use all the time. We were talking about disciplining kids and stuff, but the timeout in this sense is taking kind of a break to wrap your head around the emotion of it. And this is real evident to me. Typically, I need a good hour to 2 hours to get myself away. Because the first 15 minutes I'm away, man, I'm still storming inside. I got my head all fired up about whatever it is that was just said or done. And so I need a little bit of time to pull the reins in and figure out what's going on. Okay? So put yourself in a timeout. It might mean that you remove yourself from the situation. You go take a drive. Between Linda and I, when we get in this situation, we look at each other and we say, I need a little break. I need a little break right now because I'm getting ready to say something I don't want to say. And so I need a little break. And because she honors me and knows how we function, she doesn't say, "Oh yeah, come on, what are you doing? You're just walking away from it." No, she doesn't bait that with even more emotion. Instead, she says, "Yeah, that's fine. That's fine." And so we go ahead and we take that break. And so please, that's the first thing you do when you find yourself acting immature and you're letting your emotions get a hold of you. Get out. Okay, take a break. All right.
And I just wanted to back up just a little bit. That idea. As far as some things to take away from this idea. First and foremost, obviously, go at this as a Christian perspective. That unconditional love. But as men, we need to own the fact that those sometimes are our typical responses. Some of the stuff we're talking about, when she nags me, I'll just ignore her. If she's going to withhold sex, well, I'll just withhold love. That idea that we need to own the fact that these are some of our typical responses, especially if when we said some of these typical responses, it kind of hits you right in the face. If that was you and you took that as like, well, I have said those things or I have done those things, you got to own it. We've talked about this a lot in episodes. I think, if we ever write like a constitution of what it looks like to be a strong dad, like the idea of owning it has to be one of those things.
Yeah, it's in the top 5.
Oh my goodness,
owning your behavior.
Just know that if you fall short in this, it's okay. Like I know I do, but we got to own it. We have to realize that our words our words can really hurt our wives.
Yeah.
They really do have lasting effects. We need to own that, and so that way, the next time those ideas, the next time when an argument does happen, we are conscious of what we're going to get ready to say. That idea, just like you were saying, with you and your wife, with you and Linda, that you and your wife have an agreement that if something's about to be said, you just stop, and she respects that. Just you have owned the fact that you understand that you've fallen short in this category,
right.
and it needs fixing. And again, that idea that you need to go at it with your wife, that you and your wife have to be on the same page, that there is a shortfall here, like we do fall short, and you establish it and you address it and you work on it together.
Yeah, that's just great stuff, that whole idea of ownership. So that does kind of take me then to the next step of this, that idea that, okay, so I just put myself somewhat in like a timeout, a breakaway, all right? And I did that because I didn't want to keep putting gas on the fire.
Yeah.
So I separate it. Now, here's where men oftentimes go wrong. So I'm out in my truck, I'm driving around, and I'm all ticked off. I got a tornado spinning in my head, right?
Yeah.
And so where men often go wrong is while they're doing this timeout, they're thinking about what she's doing wrong.
Yeah.
They're thinking about how she needs to change. They're thinking about what she does to bother them.
Yep.
Stop right now. All right. This is called victimhood.
Yeah.
All right. This is so much part of our fabric and culture anymore that it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Here's what we do. All right. When we are in the timeout, we're driving down the road in our truck and we're all stormed hot and crazy over the situation. We ask ourselves this question: what do I need to do to be better? Mm-hmm. What do I need to do? I mean, yes, we want her to stop doing certain things, but I don't control her.
Yep.
I have to control me. And by me working on what I need to do better, guys, here's how this actually works. When she sees you as a good and well-intentioned man working to try to improve yourself, you're going to see a woman come out of her that you haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
She will look at you like, wow, I didn't expect that from him.
Yeah.
All right. And so this is why we own it, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
We own it, and we start thinking about, what do I need to do to change? Maybe I need to start doing, watching this particular phrase that I use.
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe I need to spend a little bit more time with her to help her in these situations. Whatever it is, I think about what I need to do. In other words, I'm owning my part of this problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you as a man feel like your wife is minimizing you as a man and as a head of the household, if you want to lead your family, what better way to lead your family than to humble yourself, realize that you make mistakes. Obviously, it takes two to tango, when it comes to arguments, but humble yourself, realize that you messed up, and move on. And just like you were saying, come up with resolutions. Stop thinking about what is my wife doing back at home, or what's the next thing she's going to say. I got to come up with another thing to say back at her. If you want to lead your home, what a great way to do it. Humble yourself. Begin to work on the issues that we're talking about here, and work on them with your wife, and that will be a great way to lead your household.
Yeah, I mean, and that just goes on. Your kids see how that starts to play out. This is an awesome message that you can model to your kids. Okay, so once we've taken that time out, once we've redirected our thought in terms of owning it and what we can do, the next thing we do is we can't let it just go in terms of never revisiting.
Yep.
We have to set up a time with our wife to say, hey, I want to get together, I want to talk.
Yeah.
Right? And whether that's an hour away, whether it's, I like to do this before we go to bed, because it's weird, and the next day happens, and before you know it, 3 days, 3 weeks have passed, and we never actually resolved what the issue was. So we try to jump in there and get the time together where we can have that discussion. And when we discuss, we want to make sure that the emotions are not heightened. We want to. That's why we took the break. We come in together and we say, okay, can we just talk? And there are some basic ground rules for this discussion. And that is, we're not name calling, we're not attacking, we're respecting their word and giving them the opportunity to say their word. We are not defending. Did you hear that, guys? Did you hear that? When she comes out and says something that you did, you allow her to say that. You own that. Don't go, well, but I did that because, come on.
Because then you're just going to start a whole new argument.
Yeah, exactly. You're right back where you were. And I see this all the time, that we go back into defending ourselves. Own it. Right? Own it. And so this is that discussion where we go on. And even in this discussion, when you own what you did during this this misbehavior, this argument or whatever it was that happened, when you own it, it takes her defenses down. It takes them down, and you'll find that you're talking to a much nicer person there.
And, I just want to make a comment on this. This is something outside of loving Jesus in my house. This is the next most important thing that my wife and I do. We made a promise to ourselves very early on in marriage that we would never go to bed mad at each other. Very, very difficult at times. It may be 11 o'clock at night and we just had an argument. And you have to get away from it, take some time to, cool down, get your blood pressure back at a normal level. But absolutely, you cannot come back. In my opinion, I don't think you can come back to this 3 and 4 and 5 days later, because all that time, all that's doing, it's snowballing into something that doesn't need to be. I would encourage all dads out there, all men out there, that if you are married and you have arguments, you have to resolve them the same day. I think there's a great benefit to it. It doesn't turn into a 4, 5, 6 day argument. It can be done, resolved, and then you move past it and you work on resolutions together. The next time this happens, this is how we should handle it. I would really encourage all dads out there to make that a part of your constitution in your house, that you'll never go to bed mad at each other, and not just with your wife, with your kids. My kids haven't exactly got to the age where they fall short a little bit. I mean, they do.
No. The problem is when you start falling short in their eyes, right?
But just that idea
that's coming quickly.
Oh, absolutely. and the same can be said about just any relationship that we have, that we should address the issues in the same day. I think it's just a thing that I do. I just think it's I don't know if it's necessarily biblical, but I think it should be. Like, I think God would probably agree with it.
Yeah, Scripture does tell us not to let the sun set with this stuff sitting in our head. So, good stuff. That's a good part of that Constitution that you just brought up there. So, as we're walking through this conversation, one thing that you can do to reach out to your wife is, in this conversation, ask her what she needs out of you. Okay, boy, you are setting yourself up here, right? But I mean this, to say, you know what, I want to be better. I want to be a good man. I want to be a good husband and father. Tell me, what do you need me to do? Where am I missing the mark? Okay, and again, the first time you do this, you might blow her away because she's never heard you say this. And so she comes back with something that could be kind of nasty. Well, you just need to start doing it. Okay? All right. But remember, this didn't happen overnight. And so when you're going to ask her what you need to do, just start to own the message and not all of the antics behind the message. Just own what she's actually trying to get at there and see what you can do with that.
Yeah, right? For sure.
The other side of that is asking her, as men, we sometimes want to flip this and say, well, I need you to start doing this and this and this. Listen, if you work with people and you put demands on them like that when they're not quite buying into the whole program to begin with, and you put a demand on them, their feet just got stuck into the ground that much harder to resist you. And so one of the things that we know that works really well when we're working with people is to say, I need your help.
Yep.
Asking for their help.
Yep.
When we ask people for help, the nature of people actually is face to face.
Yeah.
They want to work with you.
Yep.
And so when I asked Linda, hey, hon, I need your help on this. I'm struggling with this. I need your help.
Yeah.
Okay. Right away, I'm not saying you need to start doing this. I'm saying I need your help with this because I'm the one having the problem.
Yep. And just that idea that you there may be on the opposite, your wife may need help with stuff. That idea of being a servant leader, that
Yes.
you're in there, you're willing, you want to fix stuff as well. You know that if you have issues that your wife wants help with, it may be vice versa. So just that idea of servant leadership, going into it together, that you're in it with her, you're making sure that when you're trying to fix something, you're doing it together.
Yeah, that's the team, that the two became one team, right?
Yep.
All right, so those are some good points, hopefully, that you find valuable and you can start fishing through some of that. You know, the bottom line on all this is that if we work more from the stance of grace rather than justice, you know, our God is a God of grace and justice. But sometimes we get all into the justice side of things, of rights and wrongs and do's and don'ts, and that's that legal part. And we forget that grace needs to trump all.
Yeah.
And thank God that grace does trump all, because that's the only way that you and I have a pathway, especially you. That's it. I kid. I'm sorry. I'm such a... Yeah, well,
old man.
Yeah, such an old man. That thank God for that grace, because it allows to cover all of our shortcomings.
Yeah, it's a good thing God doesn't hold that against us. That there is forgiveness and there is grace in that for sure.
Another point, guys, is just stop fighting for yourself. What would make you feel better? What would make you feel like a winner in this? And start fighting for the marriage. Think about what we just said there. All right. This is, again, we talked about the phrase just a second ago, when two become one. When you hurt your wife, if you truly are two became one, when you hurt your wife, you actually just hurt yourself.
Yeah.
When you hurt the marriage, you hurt yourself. Right? And so we don't fight for ourselves any longer. We fight for the marriage. And again, this is a whole lot easier if she's buying into the exact same premise.
Yep.
And that's what our prayer is as well, that she comes into this journey of maturity in her faith with you. All right. But the bottom line is Christ loved us whether we were mature or not.
Yeah.
And so this is where we really ask you to jump
and
in there.
Your marriage has got to be worth fighting for. Like, if there's ever anything in this world worth fighting for, it would have to be your marriage. We talk about the generational issues and their generational effect of staying married. Like, you have got to fight for your marriage, because it is totally going to be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing, too, guys, just remember is when you're going to be in these turbulent times, and when you are, sometimes you need more. You need a coach. You need somebody to kind of get behind you and to reinforce you and to guide you. Seek strong guidance. And when you have that guidance, make sure it's guidance that's going to direct you in a pathway that Christ would choose.
Yep.
When you talked earlier, I don't need to hang around a bunch of my beer drinking buddies that are going to be yes men to me, to sit there and agree with how my thoughts are all warped. Okay, I need a man who's going to challenge me, a mentor who's going to say, well, you know what, I need you to be thinking differently about this. Yeah. So seek out that strong guidance.
And that could be, it's something as simple, here at Rock Solid Family with you and Linda. I mean, that's what a great way to kind of get back to the basics with you and your wife. Come visit you guys and see the advice, that's seeking that Christian advice. I mean, what a great facility you have here, the ability to be able to do that, to coach married couples and obviously point them back to what biblical principles is the marriage.
Yeah, we love our work just for that reason. We're able to be very straight with people, but we're also just very human and understand our own shortcomings. So if we can be a part of the helping plan, then let us help you with that.
For sure.
The idea of being equally yoked, that is definitely our goal here. We're trying to get husbands and wives to be equally yoked in our faith. And so I encourage you to seek that, and that can be sometimes we get women who are very strong in their faith and men who are out there on the fringes, and oftentimes it can go the other way around. This does not get any easier if you're not linked together on how you're going to see owning this situation. So get yourself equally yoked and come together to work as Christ would.
Yep, for sure.
Something that you can do. Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap things up as we start to walk towards the end of this, but this is such a huge point. I want you to listen to this stat for a second. And this is a stat that we find to be so true in the work that we do at Rock Solid Families. We want you to pray together. And when I say pray together, I don't mean just your evening meal, bless this food, bless this, blah, 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 and let's dig in, okay?
Yep.
Not that you shouldn't do that. That's
Sure.
always a great practice. But praying together on an unscripted prayer every day, every night. Linda and I pray together every night before we go to bed. And basically, we just grab each other's hand while we're laying in bed, and we run through a prayer to God about what our day was like, what our heart was like, what our frustrations were like, what our needs are and our pains. And we both take the time to do that. Here, listen to this stat. We know that about, give or take what stat you want to look at, but about 50% of all marriages fail. Okay? They fail. People get remarried. We know that about 78 to 80% of those marriages fail. Because we're taking the same methods and bringing them into a new marriage, but we've got now all the baggage loaded on our back from the previous, years.
Yeah.
So that's why we got 78% failure rate on second marriages. Again, I love the exceptions. I pray that your marriage is an exception, but I'm just speaking to the truth here.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Only 1% of couples, that's 1% of couples that pray together on a daily basis have a failed marriage. All right? That's a stat that you can't beat. That's better than any marriage counselor can do. Yeah. That's better than any medication can do. Yeah. That's better than anything. Praying together on an unscripted prayer, your heart on a daily basis. Here's what happens when you actually do that. The two of you humbled yourself under the face of God right there.
Yep.
You didn't pray that your wife would change. You didn't pray, dear Lord, as this would go over really big, holding Linda's hand. Lord, please help Linda be a better person to me. Yeah, right there. I can feel a punch coming right there.
Yeah, probably wouldn't go over too well.
No, but instead I've humbled myself to say, Lord, please help us.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's huge. We can't hurt each other in a prayer, right? Because obviously we don't want to dishonor God in that prayer, and so we speak highly of each other in the prayer.
Yeah,
we can speak our deepest hurts.
Yeah,
right. Something that's been on our heart, something that's been bugging us. We can let that roll.
And with that, you can. What an awesome thing to be able to ask for forgiveness for the things that did hurt your spouse in front of God. Like you're speaking to God, like, God, I'm so sorry I said that to Jenny. Whatever. That what a great healing tool that can be to really use God to heal those wounds.
Yeah. During that prayer time, we can use it as an opportunity to show appreciation for our spouse.
For sure.
We can take the time to invite change in our own life. Like, Lord, help me do this.
Yeah.
Okay, that I recognize a need to change something.
Yeah.
All right?
Yep.
Just the selfishness, I can ask God to strip that away from me. Okay?
Yep.
The thing that prayer does that other things don't do as effectively, it gives us hope. And when I see my spouse praying like I'm praying, it gives me hope in that our efforts are both moving into the same direction.
Yeah.
So that is the cool thing about praying together.
Yeah.
So
and
practice.
With praying, you as a man should be praying individually. And if this is a struggle for you, I would just, last night in my small group, we were actually talking about the idea of praying for wisdom. As a man, like, if you don't know what that looks like, just pray for it.
Yeah.
See how God presents him. Ask for wisdom. Ask for guidance in this struggle that you're having. If you seek God's advice and you seek God's guidance in this, you're not going to fail.
Yeah. He's going to stay right there with you.
Yeah.
All right, so we are wrapping up now. This has hopefully been great information and useful bits that you can plug in and start practicing right away. Here's some challenge stuff for you guys, okay? I want you to, when you're done listening to this, I want you to spend some time today and just be thinking about how it is that you have been treating your wife and how she's been treating you. I mean, she's not innocent in all of this as well, and so we're not trying to point the finger at just the man here. But just think about how you actually been treating each other. What's been the immature action coming out of each of you? Identify it. Own what, as you talked about before. Own it. Okay.
Yep.
The second thing, once you've identified this, let's resolve to get some help.
Yep.
Whether if you are so far deep into this and you're like, yeah, you don't even understand. We got a mess in this marriage. Okay. Seek help. And that, whether it's calling Rock Solid Families, whether it is getting help through your church, your pastor, a private counseling agency, whatever it is, go get some help because your marriage is at stake here.
Absolutely. And just start the conversation. If maybe you're not to that point where it's gotten so bad, just start the conversation. Yeah. I mean, again, what a great way to humble yourself. Just start that conversation that you want to resolve these issues.
Yeah. Another challenge I have for you, if you really are this deep into trying to figure this out, a book that we highly recommend here at Rock Solid Families is the book called Love and Respect by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs. His book is fantastic. Linda and I have taught his work for the longest time, and it really just hits this whole topic super hard. And the cool thing about it, it doesn't point the finger at just the man or just the woman. It really points it at both of you. So when you read it, you say, "Oh, we both have some things."
Feel a little convicted, both people.
Yeah. So I want you to jump in and find that. So anyway, those are some challenge things. If you need help, please give us a call at 812-576-7625, or you can go on the site rocksolidfamilies.org, and there's a contact button there, and you can reach out to us there. So hopefully this show convicted you a little bit. Hopefully you laughed a little bit about, you can just get a visual of Linda like smacking me or whatever. She doesn't do that, by the way, but hopefully you can see some of the humor in our immaturity that we often have.
Yep.
Kyle, we better say thanks.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Again, just thanks so much for Kreimer's Beer House. And just thanks for coming alongside of us. Again, down on Route 128 in Cleves. Go check them out. They've been around since 1982. Definitely a Cincinnati favorite. So go check them out for an incredible meal and incredible setting.
All right, and I want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency. Thanks for them coming behind Strong Dads and doing their part to help us do our part to making our dads and our family stronger. So for all your insurance needs, contact Mansfield Insurance and get all of that covered through Jim Mansfield and his wonderful agency there. Okay, so thanks to all of our listeners. I love working with you, Kyle. I love that you hold me accountable for being an old fart. And I want you to just stay doing what you're doing. Thank Jen for her allowing you to kind of come and share a lot of sometimes personal information.
Yeah.
Because there's probably times when she's saying, I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot.
Yep.
And how about sign us off?
Go out and be some strong dads.
Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. Established in 1981, the Mansfield Insurance Agency has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, serving clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.